Yes, it's a concern for many people. How do you get Ebola and how do you not get Ebola? Ebola is basically transmitted through direct contact with bodily fluids from a person who is infected. And we're talking sweat, saliva, we're also talking vomit because, you know, this is one of the symptoms that they get. And that is why you see the people at the front line dealing with Ebola wearing all this protective, you know, equipment basically to protect those points of entry, which is basically the eyes, the nose, the mouth, you know, open wounds. And there has also been evidence that people who have been cured of Ebola continue to have it in their semen for up to 7 weeks after they have recovered from Ebola.
That's fascinating. What about the rate at which Ebola is spreading? Because I think people are starting to feel like, you know, that rate is increasing. Is that the case?
Yes, it is. It's exponential. It's exponential because, you know, this was left to simmer for a couple of months before the Guinean government got to learn that there was Ebola in their country. And so, you know, drew everyone's attention to it. And by that time, it had spread across the 3 countries. And there were so many people infected at that point. And so, you know, they kept, you know, infecting other people. And so the more people we have infected, the higher the rate of infection.
We're so far along now, but that is interesting. One of the other questions that came up on Twitter particularly is people just wanting to know how this all started and where Ebola comes from.
That's right. Some epidemiologists have done studies looking backwards, and they identified a toddler whom they believe was the first person to be infected in December in Guinea, in a little village in Guinea, and it spread to his family, and that's what sparked this whole outbreak.
There's also been concern, of course, from people here in Europe and America because there have been these cases now of the nurse that we're following closely in Madrid, the first person here to have contracted Ebola outside of West Africa. And travellers are worried. So just to get you to answer this question from Facebook, why is travel not restricted to Ebola countries?
Well, basically, the experts are telling us that, you know, travel in itself is not a risk. And, you know, one of the respected professors in this field, Peter Piota, said that he can travel in a train with somebody who is infected with Ebola and he wouldn't be troubled. The other thing is some of the airlines have stopped going to the countries that have been affected. And this is having really adverse impact on the ground in terms of the economic situation in those 3 countries and even the wider West African region and the whole of Africa now because of this panic and, you know, people not knowing how to respond to it, not knowing what to do.
We heard the other day about some of the health workers going on strike in Sierra Leone, not wanting to move the bodies. That seems to have been resolved, but there's a question that's come to us from many people asking if a person is actually still infectious after they die.
Extremely. When a person dies, I think that is the point where experts tell us they're most infectious. And that is why in this epidemic it has been very important to change the way dead bodies are treated, and that's why you're seeing people who have all the protective gear are the ones who are doing all the safe burials. And it is a key component of dealing with this epidemic because unless these people are buried in a very safe way, then it's going to spread to other people.
And is that happening, Anne? Are they being buried in a safe way or only in some places?
To some extent, but there's still a lot that needs to be done. I think at this point, more people have understood the importance of that. You know, we're talking about countries that have very, you know, ingrained traditions about burial and ceremonies. In Sierra Leone, for instance, one traditional healer has been linked to at least 365 deaths of people who attended her funeral ceremony. And, you know, they involve a lot of contact with the dead and, you know, so it is a huge risk, and so people are beginning to understand that they cannot bury their loved ones. But it's not something easy to change.
So this is a question from me, actually. How are they getting to learn this? Is it through messages on the radio? Is it through word of mouth? How is that information finally getting through?
It is all of that, including what we're doing now. There have been a lot of messages through the media, through the radio. They've also had teams going into different places, talking to people. And you remember that incident in Guinea where a team had gone to teach the people about Ebola and they were attacked and killed. Very sad.
Incredibly sad. What about this issue of treatment and vaccines? Are we getting any closer?